Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Storytime Circle. My name is Jennifer, and I'm here to tell another story today because it's Wednesday and it's 4 o'clock. So you know what that means. It's time to tell a story. I hope you've had a good day, and I hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather. Today is a beautiful, beautiful day. A wonderful day to go outside and play. I love to play outside. Do you like to play outside too? I love to play outside in the green grass and look at the blue sky and feel the warm sun. So as you join the story circle, please say hello. Hello, Andrea. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining our Storytime Circle today. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm having a wonderful day too. And I'm very, very excited about the story that I'm going to tell today because I love the sun and I love the summer. And most of all, I love the sea. I love to go to the sea, and I love to relax under the sun. So because it's almost summer, I want to tell a story about the sea. I want to tell a story about who lives in the sea. Because under the sea, there's a whole wonderful world under the sea. There are so many animals and so many different types of plants. What kinds of animals? Well, there are fish. There are big fish and small fish. There are ugly fish and beautiful fish. There are fish that swim fast, and there are fish that swim slow. And there are many, many wonderful creatures under the sea. So today, because today is a wonderful day, and because I love the sea and the sun, we're telling a story about the sea. Who lives under the sea? Do you live under the sea? Do I live under the sea? No, we don't. But who does? One of the wonderful creatures who live under the sea is a seahorse. And we are reading a story today about a wonderful, wonderful seahorse. But he's a he, not a she. He's a daddy seahorse. Did you know that seahorses can be daddies? And seahorses can be mommies too. But there's something very, very, very special about the daddy seahorses. And we're going to find out what. So take a deep breath. Because we're going under the sea to meet Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse. How many seahorses do you see? Count with me. 1, 2. I see 2 seahorses. How many do you see? And they're wonderful colors. It's Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse. Can you tell which is which? No, you can't. Because seahorses are mommies and daddies. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle this way and that. I wonder what's wrong. "It's time to lay my eggs," she said. Come here, it's time to lay my eggs." "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Of course you can. Thank you." And she laid her eggs in his pouch on his belly. What's a pouch? A pouch is a big pocket. It's a big pocket. But what do you put in the pouch? Mr. Seahorse puts the eggs in his pouch so he can keep them close. "I will take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." Because when daddies make promises, they always keep them. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by. "What do you see?" "I see a patch of reeds in the sea." "What's behind the patch of reeds?" Let's take a look. A group of trumpet fish hidden in the patch of reeds. Trumpet fish. How many trumpet fish do you see? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 trumpet fish. How many do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4. I see 4 trumpet fish behind the patch of reeds. What wonderful friends he finds under the sea. But before long, he met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" That's a funny name, Stickleback. Asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted. I'm absolutely delighted," said Mr. Stickleback. "I just built a nest." Not only birds make nests, but fish make nests too. Which ones? Stickleback fish. And Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs in the nest. So I am taking good care of them. "You're such a good daddy," said Mr. Seahorse. "Keep up the good work." Look how big his belly is getting. Do you remember what's inside his pouch? And Mr. Seahorse swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a coral reef. Look at the beautiful coral reef. What do you think is hidden in the coral reef? Let's take a look. A lionfish is hidden in the coral reef. Rah! Lions aren't just in the jungle. Some lions are under the sea, if they are lionfish. And he's hidden behind a coral reef. What wonderful creatures we see with Mr. Seahorse under the sea. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" Mr. Tilapia. Can you see what's in Mr. Tilapia's mouth? Are they candies? No, they're not. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was filled with eggs. baby tilapias. He has baby tilapias in his mouth. I know, said Mr. Seahorse. Mrs. Tilapia laid her eggs, and now you are taking good care of them. Mr. Tilapia nodded his head because he couldn't speak. He had a mouth filled of baby tilapias. You must be very happy. You're such a good daddy, he said. And Mr. Seahorse swam on his way. Look how big his belly is getting. Do you remember, what does Mr. Seahorse have in his pouch? As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by seaweed. Look at the green, green seaweed. What do you think is hidden in the green seaweed? A pair of leaf fish are hidden in the seaweed. How many leaf fish do you see? Count with me. 1, 2. I see 2 leaf fish. How many do you see? Because leaves just don't grow on trees. They also swim in the sea, if they are leaf fish. What wonderful creatures we see with Mr. Seahorse under the sea. But before long, there's another fish. Where does he have his eggs? Are they in his mouth? They're on his head. He has eggs on his head. He met another fish, Mr. Seahorse did. How are you, Mr. Curtis? Perfectly fine, said Mr. Curtis. Mrs. Curtis has laid her eggs, and I have stuck them on my head. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch. You're doing a wonderful job, said Mr. Seahorse, and you're such a good daddy. And he swam on his way. How many fish has Mr. Seahorse met so far? Do you remember? Because he's seen so many wonderful creatures. He met Mr. Stickleback, a stickleback fish who made a nest for the eggs. Who else did he meet past the coral reef? He met Mr. Tilapia. Tilapia, who had the baby tilapias in his mouth, so he couldn't speak. And then past the seaweed, and he met Mr. Curtis, who had the eggs on his head. It must be difficult swimming in the sea with eggs stuck on your head. What wonderful daddies we're finding under the sea. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a big sea rock. Can you see what's behind the sea rock? Let's take a look. A stonefish was hidden behind the sea rock. But Mr. Seahorse did not see him because Mr. Seahorse says hello to some fish, and other fish are hidden away. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. Look how long this one is. Where does he have his eggs? Can you see where he has his eggs? How are you, Mr. Pipe? Couldn't be better, couldn't be better, replied Mr. Pipe. Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs along my belly in a long, long line. Where did she lay her eggs? Mrs. Pipe laid her eggs on my belly in a long, long line. Now I am taking good care of them until they hatch. You should feel very proud, Mr. Pipe, said Mr. Seahorse. You're such a good daddy. And he swam on his way. Do you see how all these daddies take care of the eggs before they hatch? Look how big Mr. Seahorse's belly is. It's getting so big. Do you remember what Mr. Seahorse has in his pouch? Does he have apples? Maybe a sandwich. Do you remember? But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Bullhead? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Tip-top, tip-top, replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs, and the eggs have hatched. Look at all the fish. He has all baby fish, baby bullhead fish. There are so many. Can you count them all? How many do you see? There are almost too many to count. Now I am babysitting. And you are doing a fine, fine job, said Mr. Seahorse. And he swam on his way. Do you see what all the daddies are doing? So Mr. Seahorse has met some daddies who carried their eggs all over the sea. But there were a lot of fish that Mr. Seahorse didn't see. Do you remember where they were hiding? Where were they hiding? Let's take a look. After Mrs. Seahorse said, "Come here, Mr. Seahorse, take these eggs, our eggs, and put them in your pouch." What's a pouch? A pouch is a big pocket to put things in, but not apples and not money. Seahorses keep their eggs in the pouch. But how many creatures did Mr. Seahorse not see? Because they were hiding behind something. As Mr. Seahorse drifted through the sea, he passed right by a patch of reeds. And behind the reeds, there were 4 trumpet fish. But he didn't see them because they were behind the reeds. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by the coral reef. Hidden behind the coral reef was Roar! A lionfish. But Mr. Seahorse didn't see because he was behind the coral reef. As Mr. Seahorse drifted through the sea, he swam right by seaweed. What was behind the seaweed? Leaf fish. But Mr. Seahorse didn't see because they were behind the seaweed. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a big rock. What was behind the rock? A stonefish. But Mr. Seahorse didn't see because the stonefish was behind the rock. So there were many creatures that Mr. Seahorse didn't see. And the ones he did, he said hello. He said hello to Mr. Stickleback, who made a nest. He said hello to Mr. Tilapia, who had the eggs in his mouth. And he said hello to Mr. Bullhead. But here the eggs have hatched. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. The time has come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse, he wiggled this way and that. He wiggled this way and that. At last, the babies came out of his pouch and swam away. One baby turned around and tried to get back in the pouch. Oh no, said Mr. Seahorse. Oh no, I do love you so. But now you're ready to be on your own. He carried his babies all through the sea, and when they were ready, he let them go free. How many baby seahorses do you see? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 baby seahorses. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. There were so many in his pouch. How many seahorses do you see? Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And he let them go free, and they swam away. Was Mr. Seahorse a good daddy? I think he was, because he made a promise. And good daddies always keep their promises. What promise did Mr. Seahorse make? What promise did he make in the very, very beginning? It's time to lay my eggs, said Mrs. Seahorse. And she put them in his pouch, the big pocket on his belly. I'll take good care of them. I'll take good care of them. I promise. That's what he promised. He promised to take good care of the baby seahorses. And he did. He carried them all through the sea. They made some wonderful friends. And they met some very good daddies. It's not always easy to be a daddy. But these daddies did a very good job. Mr. Stickleback made a nest. and he took care of his eggs. "You're a very good daddy," said Mr. Seahorse. And then he met Mr. What was his name again? The one with the eggs in his mouth? Mr. Tilapia. Mr. Tilapia, who carried the eggs in his mouth. "You're a very good daddy," Mr. Seahorse said, and he carried all the eggs in his mouth, and he could not speak. Who else did he meet? Who else did he meet? He met Mr. Pipe, who carried the eggs on his belly in a long, long line. "You're such a good daddy," Mr. Seahorse said. And then who did he meet? The last one he met was Mr. Bullhead, who was not carrying eggs. Not on his head, not in his mouth, not on his belly. His eggs had already hatched, and he was babysitting his babies. So Mr. Seahorse made a lot of friends, and he saw a lot of interesting things, and some creatures he didn't see because they were hidden, but they were there anyway. So Mr. Seahorse made a promise. He kept his promise. He was a good, good daddy. And I think the most wonderful things about seahorses is that seahorses are mommies and daddies. Because sometimes mommies are mommies, daddies are daddies, and sometimes mommies are mommies and daddies are mommies and daddies too. What's most important is that they take care of you. Did you know there were so many fantastic creatures under the sea? I didn't know, not until today. I know I've said that I love butterflies and I am a butterfly, but I've been thinking, maybe I should be a seahorse. If you could be any fish in the sea, what kind of fish would you be? Isn't that something to think about? I think I want to be a seahorse, so I can carry babies and eggs in my pouch, my big pocket on my belly. And I can be a mommy, and I can be a daddy too. Wasn't this a great story? Thank you so much for coming by this afternoon. I've been thinking about the sea because I love the sea. I love to look at the sea. I love to listen to the sea. And I love to swim in the sea. Do you like to swim too? And soon it will be summer, and I'm going to go to the sea. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I'm going to look for seashells, and I'm going to make big sand castles. And then when I'm tired, I'm going to sleep in the sand under the sun. What are you going to do this summer? Well, why don't you think about what fish you want to be and think about what you're going to do this summer. And then next time, when we see each other in the Storytime Circle, you tell me, what fish would you be and what are you going to do this summer? Thank you so much for joining the Storytime Circle today. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. Have a super fantastic week. And next time at 4 o'clock, I will be here waiting for you with another story to tell. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great, great day. And I will see you next time.